What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I want to talk about my top 10 dream knives. If you are an enthusiast or a knife user, knife collector, chances are you have at least one dream knife. Maybe your dream knife is obtainable, maybe it's unobtainable, maybe it's a dream knife you plan to use, and maybe it's basically an art piece that costs thousands of dollars that you know you'll never get your hands on. If you're the latter, you're like me. I've got about 50 knives that I know that I will never get my hands on and are way too expensive for my budget, and all I can do is just dream about them. Any one of them would make me unbelievably happy, but this is a list of 10, and for my viewers that have been watching me for a long time, I'm sure you're wondering how many of these are going to be custom hinderers. None of them, and there are a bajillion custom hinderers that I want. But putting a bunch on this list would make it boring. I want you guys to know about some of the other knives that I'm really interested in. Also, there's going to be a general theme with a lot of these. I've mentioned this before, nowadays in terms of the knives that I carry, I keep a practical sense about me. But in terms of the knives that I lust after, I am very much stuck in 2012, 13, and 14. So you're going to see a lot of crazy, overbuilt, impractical stuff. Even if I were to obtain any of these knives, none of them would get used, and I'm fully aware that they make no sense whatsoever. So you can remind me of that if you want to, but it's not going to change how much I want them. Also, for people who don't like these iPad episodes, I know, I'm sorry, I don't have the actual knives to show you, but that's because I don't have the $30,000 it would cost to pay for all of this stuff. So I thought it might be fun to just kind of explore this, and I feel like it's a pretty relatable topic. A lot of us like to just get on Google and drool over stuff. All of these knives were pulled from Google. I don't own any of these images there, and some of them actually have the names of the websites they came from, so I'll make sure and point that out as we move along. Anyways, 2 minutes in, got that all out. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. I love knives, knife reviews, knife overviews, unboxings, battles, top 5 stuff, top 10 stuff. I upload daily, usually, so if that sounds good to you, please subscribe to my channel. Let's start off here with the first knife. It's actually an honorable mention. I'm going to go ahead and tap the screen to make sure that we have the light on. This is, like I said, not part of my top 10. It's the only fixed blade on my list because, truthfully, it's the only fixed blade I've ever lusted after. This is a custom Marfione Interceptor, and it's the dagger blade. Truthfully, I'd take it in just about any finish. This is the most beautiful fixed blade I have ever seen. I know that he does... was a single edge version of this with kind of a sawback. I think there's you can get mirror polish versions. I'd love that. I'm sure he's got an apocalyptic version. I'm sure he's got I don't know if he does his dragon skin Damascus, that crazy, that would be amazing. I'd take just about any version of this in the dagger blade. This is a beautiful example of symmetry in a fixed blade, and it just looks so perfect. Practical or not, I don't care. This just looks awesome. I love the rounded cylindrical handle, the way that it's wrapped. I love that blood groove down the center and the typical Microtech holes. I love Tony Marfione's signature crest there, the dagger through the M. I actually had to change my original logo because it looked too much like that. But owning this knife would bring me so much joy. Unfortunately, I probably never will. So, on to my true number 10, and these are in order, guys, from least desired to most desired, but I desire all of them, keep that in mind. Number 10, the DSK Tactical Kickstand. This thing is monstrously overbuilt, very long, very tall, very heavy, very thick. Bears a passing resemblance to Medford knives. It's kind of like a Praetorian tie meets Marauder style knife. A lot of times with knives like this, I've said before I don't really like Tantos. Yeah, I'll take a Tanto and a mega overbuilt knife like this because it kind of fits the theme. You've got that compound sort of flat grind up top and then the hollow down below. It makes me think of my old Medford Marauder. You've got the groove up here, the thumb groove. It's got a flipper tab on it though, which makes it super cool to me. Probably a 1/4 inch stock, probably 187 thousandths thick titanium at least. Super impractical, super cool. Love it. Moving on to number 9. Some of you are going to be familiar with Melvin, notorious for making crazy overbuilt titanium frame locks with compound grinds. This is a beautiful monochromatic hand rubbed satin, and probably it might be orange peel or it might just be kind of a matte satin finish on the titanium, but there's some contouring on the titanium. There's a nice short flipper tab. The grind is probably impractical, but I don't care. It just looks cool. I believe this is a Rhino. He's got a lot of different styles, and he's notorious for like going as, you know, it used to. I don't know if you can still get knives from him anymore, but he used to just let people, you know, however thick you wanted the knife. You know, remember back in 2012, 2013, that was popular. He was known for doing it. So if you wanted one of these mega overbuilt folders, he would do it for you. Really, really cool. Moving on here to number 8, a Direware Solo. I think this is a V. I'm not super familiar with Direware knives, but that's because I have never really handled them. I've just watched videos on them. These look like folding killer whales to me, and a lot of people aren't going to like that, but I love a good tall blade. It just looks good. I also like the way that they've ground this one, where they've got the flat carrying out. It's not only tall, but it's carrying out like 90% of the blade. So there's a sharp drop down to the tip, which means this is one of those knives where I don't think you could break the tip. It's, Direware is not notorious for making like 1/4 inch stock thick blades. They generally do like 187 thousandths, but their titanium is super thick, and it's also contoured. So you're really hanging on to a fat dude. That sounded funny, but you're really hanging on to a lot of titanium when you are holding on to a knife like this. And of course, I love the forward choil in this guy. I love that it's got a flipper tab. I also like the pivot. I think it's cool. I like big, thick, chunky hardware to go along with the nature of the knife. But that has always been interesting to me, Direware knives. Moving on, this is a newer knife on the market, believe it or not. This is a Miller Bros T1. Miller Bros are notorious for making like massively overbuilt fixed blades, like 1/3 of an inch thick on the stock, which is just crazy. I think their M8 was one of their most popular fixed blades. I watched a video from 2017 where they talked about this knife, and it's overbuilt, like kind of paying homage to that time period where this was popular. Probably 1/4 inch thick stock, probably 1/4 inch thick stock titanium. It looks like you've got 2 thumb studs there. One that is a bracing lug and one that actually deploys the knife. There's also a big hole up here, which serves as a place for a pin, making it, in theory, and probably not 100%, but as strong as a fixed blade. There's 3 points of contact then. You know, the frame with the bracing lugs, the frame lock itself, and then the pin. So you have, in theory, a very strong system. Though the build itself is so impractical, you kind of... you might as well just be carrying a fixed blade, but super cool. Love the look of it, love the blade, love the sort of reverse, I call this a reverse recurve. Of course, love the choil. Big fan of the big overbuilt hardware. You know, as I mentioned before, I love that. Speaking of insanely overbuilt knives, number 6. This is a Reese Weiland Fatty Slash. Fans of the knife world, and, you know, veterans and newcomers alike, if you've heard the term fatty, you probably can surmise that it means that it is fat or thick. And it is. It is very thick. In fact, let me give you an example here. I'm pretty sure this specific Fatty Slash has a 1/2 inch thick stock blade. There is no way that this thing cuts properly. And it's so simple. I mean, it's literally a folding brick. I feel like Reese Weiland was kind of like poking fun or like kind of trolling a little bit when he made this thing. But I just think this is awesome. I love blade shapes like this. I mean, it's literally a rectangle. It's a brick that has been sharpened into a blade. It's just crazy, but I think it's so cool, you know? I mean, you got these big, thick pieces of titanium. There's enough room right here where you definitely, if the blade is sharp, you're definitely going to get your fingers in there and cut yourself. But this is more, you know, this is a sculpture. As Nick Shabazz would put it, it's a sculpture. It's hardly, there's no way you could call this a practical cutting tool. But, I mean, it's still cool. You know, there's a draw to it. And I'm one of those people that thinks it's really cool. So I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of eye rolls from that one. Next one's going to be a lot more of a practical knife. So my buddy David bought one of my dream knives, and so it's not on this list. One of my dream knives for a long time was a Todd Begg Bugatti. And that knife has been featured on my channel. It's been purchased, and I've had a chance to handle one of my dream knives. So I can't do a proper list without having a bag knife on this channel. So my new dream from bag knives is a Damascus Bodega. And I just think the colors in this particular picture, you know, the orange with the blue and turquoise and that mirror polished two-tone blade is just fantastic. Big fan of harpoon shapes, big fan of forward choils. This knife is notorious for having one of, if not the best action in the entire world. And judging from what I felt from the Bugatti, yeah, that's probably the case. The Bugatti to this day has the best action by far that I've ever felt. It's literally frictionless. I mean, there's no feeling whatsoever. This is more of an 8 1/4, 8.5 inch knife, thinner stock blade, thinner stock titanium, contoured. Makes a lot more sense in terms of an EDC knife if you're going to carry a $3, $4, $5,000 EDC knife, which I never would. But that's definitely on my list. Moving on here to number 4. Anything from Dalibor Bergam. I'm pretty sure this knife is called a Draco. Oh my gosh, this is stunning. Look at the steel here. You have God knows how or what type of Damascus or Damasteel that is. I have no idea. I am not a master of any of that, but I can tell you this, it's beautiful. The blade shape is beautiful. Obviously, despite it being an insane, you know, sort of impractical looking blade shape, you take a look at it and you can kind of see the idea where he wants the index finger and the thumb to fall, you know, the jimping. And then you've got that thumb hole. I would imagine that would be, you know, a very appealing fidgety type, very large overbuilt titanium frame lock. And, you know, on top of that, the exotic nature of all the materials. Love the flamed pivot. Love the orange peel texture. I don't know if you guys can see the orange peel texturing on the titanium frame there and moving down to the milling. And it looks like maybe a zirconium inlay there on the handle. Oh my gosh, that is just beautiful. I would take anything from Dalibor Bergam, but this knife, if it is the Draco, this is one of the most impressive I've ever seen. These things go for astronomical prices. I'm probably never, ever going to get my hands on this or anything else. Moving on to number 3, a knife that I probably will attempt to get a hold of at some point. I haven't decided. I mean, one of these knives on this list is you know, I'm going to try and get just so I can say that I have one. But I don't know how many years it's going to take, or, you know, it's going to get harder and harder. This is the picture here is actually an old school picture of a Crusader Forge, probably back when they were known as Trident knives, FIFP Monolith. FIFP standing for Fear is for Prey. Yes, I know there is an XL version of it. I'm not interested in that one. I like this one. I think it's about 8.5 inches. Monolith to them meaning very thick blade, sometimes very thick titanium to go with it. I think the blade stock on this is about 1/4 inch, and you probably have at least 187 thousandths thick titanium, and or you know, possibly up to 1/4 inch. I like the simple look of it. I like the way that they do what Medford calls a vulcanization on the blade. I think it's, truthfully, if you want to, if I'm going to say what it actually is, I think it's an unfinished, you know, blade finish essentially, you know. But it's what the I think it's what the blade looks like when it comes out of the oven, so to speak. But I like how that looks. Crusader Forge is known for using a different grade of titanium, and I forget what it is, but it's supposed to be more durable. They also really like S30V, but they use some other steels now. I think they use 3V. Yeah, a 3V FIFP Monolith. Oh God, I love how this looks. It's simple, but it's also aggressive. It's just got a lot of the looks that I really like. I love the flat hardware on this one, but I also like their big chunky hardware that they use sometimes. Again, I have no intention of ever using any of these, so I don't care how impractical any of it is. It doesn't look very ergonomic, but man, I would have a lot of fun just having it, holding it, looking at it. You know, I'm a crazy person. I'm a knife guy, you know, and I feel like there are a lot of people out there who think the same way as me. Moving on to number 2, you guys have heard me talk about this knife a lot. The Medford Praetorian tie. I've owned a T. I thought the T would kill my urge for the tie. It didn't. I want the tie. This was the first knife, the first mega overbuilt knife that I saw that actually drew me into mega overbuilt knives. And I think it's that way with a lot of people. This knife is still extremely popular. You're not going to get your hands on one of these for anything less than about $1,200. making it probably one of the more obtainable knives on my list. The second being the Crusader Forge FIFP. If I'm going to go after one of them, it's going to be one of those two guys. I can't afford both, and I have no idea. I mean, this would be an example of one that I would love to have. The crazy vulcanized blade with the reds and the blues. You know, I've seen that finish in person. I've had a Medford Marauder with that finish, and it's just stunning. I want that quarter inch stock thick blade. I would be happy with draw point or tanto. To get those colors, you have to have, you know, a steel like D2 or 3V that's not stainless. I think those non-stainless steels bring those colors out a little bit more. I've seen S35VN. I know he offers S35. I've seen some of his S35VN blades bring out a little bit of color, but this is a D2 blade. I've never seen a Medford knife with ultra bright colors that wasn't D2 or 3V, so I'm a big fan of that. And I probably wouldn't go with D2 just to help me sleep at night for the amount of money I gave for it. I'd probably want to go with 3V, but I like how their handles look. I like these grooves. The handle is not the most ergonomic thing in the world. I've handled it. I don't care. Making it thicker would probably make it even worse, but that's what I want. I just can only imagine what this knife feels like in hand, and I would really love to have one. Okay, we're coming up on number 1 here, and I saved this one for last because I knew there's no way you guys could ever guess what this is. I've actually talked about a knife from this maker on my channel before, and I said, you'll probably never see one on my channel. I don't really have a whole lot of interest in this maker. Well, I came across a picture of one of his knives that just about dropped me. If you watched my video, my mini-series, The Quest for the Perfect Folding Knife all the way through, where I talked about blade shapes, deployment methods, my ideal materials, the look of the materials, the look of the hardware, you're going to understand why I was so drawn to this knife. And I know I'm building up theatrics. I'm known for that. So if you're newly subscribed, just know I like to draw things out and build up the tension. You probably already fast forwarded because you don't want to hear me talk. Anyways, number 1, this is a Strider MSC SMG or Mixed Strider Custom SMG with probably the most incredible, perfect blade I've ever seen. We have a compound harpoon with a large sharpening choil and finger choil, and you know Strider knives of course have that hole opening mechanism. You also have textured, it's like knurled textured or diamond pattern textured titanium that has been contoured. Oh, you guys know this is what I was talking about. I didn't know that this knife existed, and you know a lot of you are wondering, is this what he's talking about? Is this what he's going after? No, I wish. I don't know how I could possibly obtain this exact knife. And this picture was ripped from Monkey Edge. Sorry, Monkey Edge, or thank you, Monkey Edge, I guess. Advertising for your website. I would have no idea where to get this knife. I'm guessing this is at least a $2,500 knife, probably more. But this is one of the most beautiful things that I have ever seen. And I know for a lot of you are like, geez, you showed all that bright, colorful stuff, and now you're showing us something like boring and monochromatic. If you know me, this is what I like. I like the all, one color look, and this blade has everything that I love. It's got kind of a drop point nature. It's got the forward choil. It's got the harpoon. It's got the jimping up top, the thumb hole opener. It's got the lugs, the bracing lugs. It's got the big, thick, chunky hardware that's polished. It's a titanium frame lock. Oh, it's just so beautiful and so perfect to me. I love this knife. Sadly, I will never, ever, ever have it. But that's pretty much all I can say about this list, is that aside from one of them, I will never get my hands on these things. But it's sad, but it's also kind of fun at the same time. I like doing this, and these knives I've lusted after for a long time. I just recently found this one, but it made me think like, hey, there are knives that I've never seen before that could easily bump some of these other ones off this list. So this video, Top 10 Dream Knives, will actually get an update periodically. Probably, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 times a year. I might update it, do another video, just kind of let you guys know what my dream knives are. A lot of these are older. I might have some fun if I explored some of the newer stuff, and I'm sure some of you guys will point me in the right direction. You always do. But I'm excited to explore that a little bit just for fun. So Anyways, guys, I hope you at least found this video entertaining. I doubt many people got much information from it, but if you at least found it entertaining, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check that stuff out. And if you enjoy all my content, then please subscribe to my channel because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day.